Why was she so quiet when everyone else was celebrating? The mission brief had ended, the room alive with nervous laughter and the low thud of boots against the concrete floor. Maps were folded, radios checked, men and women exchanging quick glances like players before a final game. They believed victory was near. But her silence told a story none of them were ready to face. She sat apart from the others, elbows on her knees, fingers laced but unmoving. The hum of the fluorescent lights above felt louder around her, pressing down, drowning out the chatter. Her eyes never left the floor. Dust, scuff marks, a crack that ran the length of the concrete. It was safer to stare there than to look into anyone's eyes. Because if she did, someone might notice. Someone might see the truth she carried like a weight no armor could protect her from. Her name wasn't whispered like a legend. Not here, not in this unit. She wasn't the one people toasted in mess halls or called a natural-born killer. She was something quieter. The kind of soldier who moved like shadow, whose trigger pull came without ceremony, whose words were rationed like water on a long patrol. A sniper, they called her, but to her, it was simpler. She was the one who watched, the one who waited, the one who carried silence like it was a second skin. Outside, the desert evening dropped fast. Heat sinking into the earth, winds carrying the sharp scent of sand and diesel. The horizon burned orange, fading into gray. And somewhere beyond that horizon was the mission, a village caught between promises of liberation and the grip of men who dealt in fear. Intelligence spoke of a compound, of prisoners, of weapons that weren't meant for this war but for the next. And tonight they would strike. They believed it would be clean, swift. A line through a map, a box checked, a danger removed. But there was something she hadn't told them, not yet. "Hey," a voice broke through the static of her thoughts. It was Lewis, the medic, crouching down beside her. His uniform still carried the smell of antiseptic and tobacco, his smile tired but kind. "You good? You've been elsewhere." She lifted her gaze just enough to meet his, then back to the floor. "I'm fine." "You always say that." He wanted to push further, she could see it in the way his jaw tight, the way his eyes lingered on her face, but he didn't. He had his own ghosts and maybe he respected hers. He patted her shoulder once and rose, walking back toward the others where laughter swelled again. For a moment she almost envied them, their ability to laugh before a storm, their confidence that tomorrow would still belong to them. She used to feel that way, before the letter, before the last mission. Before her brother's face began to haunt her in the silence of her scope. The convoy rolled out just after dusk. Engines grumbled low, headlights masked, every shadow stretched long and sharp under the pale moon. She rode in the back, pressed against the cold metal wall, her rifle across her lap. Her fingers traced the grooves of the stock, a ritual more calming than prayer. Around her, the team shifted, checked gear, tried not to think about the things they couldn't control. Someone whispered a joke. Someone else muttered a reply. She stayed quiet, ears tuned not to voices but to the rhythm of the road, the distant howl of wind, the occasional crackle of the radio. Every sound mattered. Every silence, too. 30 minutes out, the driver called, voice clipped, "Stay sharp." Her breath slowed, muscles tight, then released. She thought about her brother, his last message, his refusal to come home, the way he'd written that he wasn't ready to give up the fight. He had been captured 2 months later, and though command never confirmed it, though no file bore his name under missing, she knew. She knew the region, the faction, the rumors of prisoners hidden away. And now, here they were heading toward a compound where men were held in silence, where one of them could be him. But she couldn't tell them that. Not Lewis, not the captain, not anyone. This mission wasn't about him, not on paper. If they knew, they'd think her judgment compromised. They ground her, remove her scope. And she couldn't let that happen. She needed her eyes, she needed her silence. It was the only way she'd find him, or at least find the truth of what became of him. The convoy slowed. Engines hummed lower, tires crunching against gravel. Ahead, faint lights flickered, not village lights, not homes, but the hard, unnatural glow of a guarded compound. Orders whispered through radios. The unit split, boots hitting the ground, shadows blending into the terrain. She moved with them, steady, rifle slung across her shoulder, the desert air biting colder with each step. The silence here was different, heavier, like the earth itself was holding its breath. They took positions. She found her perch, a ridge overlooking the walls, a narrow crack between stones her sightline. She lay prone, cheek pressed to the stock, breath sinking with the rhythm of her scope. One guard, two, a third leaning lazy against a gate. Patterns emerged, packing, pauses, the small careless gestures of men who didn't expect death to watch them tonight. Her finger hovered, but she didn't pull. Not yet. Timing was everything. Silence was everything. Sniper status, the captain's voice low, steady. She exhaled. Eyes on, three guards, pattern predictable, gate unreinforced. A pause, copy, stand by. The others moved closer. She tracked them through her scope, the team cutting through darkness, careful, efficient. Lewis was among them, his silhouette bent, burdened with gear. She wanted to call out, to warn them of something she couldn't name, a wrongness she felt deep in her chest. But she stayed silent. She had learned long ago that sometimes instincts sounded like ghosts, and ghosts didn't get to command missions. Then a sound, not loud but wrong. A radio squawked too sharp. A guard stiffened, turned, shouted. The night cracked open. Gunfire tore across the compound, sharp and merciless. She squeezed her trigger and a man dropped. Another, then another. Each shot precise, a heartbeat, a decision. The air filled with shouts, the metallic staccato of rifles, the crunch of boots running across gravel. Her team pressed forward, pinned, returning fire. She became their shadow above, her silence breaking only in the thunder of her rifle. But in the chaos, a door slammed open. Dragged into the light was a figure, blindfolded, wrists bound, stumbling under the grip of two armed men, a prisoner. His head lifted just enough for her to see the curve of his jaw, the shape of his shoulders. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to a single line through her scope. Could it be him? Could it be her brother? The breath caught in her throat, her finger frozen. If she fired, she risked him. If she didn't, she risked them all. Sniper, take the shot. The captain barked through comms, voice urgent, cutting. Her pulse hammered. The rifle trembled not from fear but from the weight of choice. Silence pressed in, louder than the gunfire, louder than her heartbeat. She wanted to speak, to say his name, to ask for 1 second more, but the words never came. Silence, always silence. She moved her scope, found the guard instead. One pull, one shot, he dropped. The prisoner stumbled free for an instant before another hand caught him, dragging him back into the dark. Her chest tightened. She fired again, but the door slammed shut. Gone. Sniper, the captain demanded. She swallowed hard, eyes burning. Guard neutralized, prisoner lost inside. The battle raged on, but she barely heard it. Her silence screamed louder. She had seen him, or thought she had. And she knew from that moment on this mission wasn't about victory or weapons or intelligence reports. It was about truth, and she wasn't sure anyone was ready to face it. Not them. Not her. Not yet. What did she see through the scope? Was it really him, or just another face her memory wanted to recognize? The compound was quieter now, though quiet was a cruel word. Smoke bled through the night air, mixing with the sharp metallic tang of spent rounds. A low wind carried the smell of cordite, of dust, of something burning deeper inside the walls. Voices echoed in broken bursts, commands shouted, answered, swallowed by the crackle of fire. The mission wasn't over, not yet, but the first wave was done. She stayed on the ridge longer than she should have, her eyes still to the glass, even after the last target dropped. She was trained to scan, to confirm, to stay ahead, but her focus wasn't on the perimeter anymore. It was locked on that single door, the one that swallowed the prisoner whole. Sniper status, the captain's voice came through again, more clipped this time, less patient. She forced herself to breathe. Overwatch stable, compound perimeter clear, no new contacts. There was a pause long enough to feel like judgment. Then, copy, hold position. She lowered her rifle slowly, chest rising and falling with a weight she couldn't name out loud. Around her, the desert stretched endless, but she felt cornered, trapped by her own silence. Her comms crackled again, this time Lewis's voice, hushed, strained. We're inside. Casualties light, 2 wounded, you covering us. I'm here. Good, stay with us, just stay with us. The words hit harder than they should, because she wasn't sure if she could. Not fully. Not when the mission had twisted into something more personal than anyone else knew. She adjusted her scope again, scanning windows, rooftops, shadows between walls. Her training returned like muscle memory, a layer over the chaos in her head. But her mind still replayed it, the figure, blindfolded, dragged. The way his shoulders hunched, the shape of his stance, the impossible familiarity of it. She tried to shake it off. Memory was a liar. In war, faces blurred, bodies bent, features twisted under hunger, fear, exhaustion. It could have been anyone, it probably was anyone. But deep down, she wasn't convinced. A voice cut through, not comms, not memory. Real, close. She shifted her rifle and found movement. A young guard crawling from behind a wall, bleeding but alive. Barely more than a boy, no older than 19. His rifle dragged uselessly behind him as he gasped for breath, his blood marking the dirt in streaks. Her finger twitched. One shot and he would be gone, clean, silent. That's what was expected of her. That's what the captain meant by perimeter clear. But she hesitated because she saw something else. The boy clutched a necklace in his free hand. Silver, faint, glinting in the moonlight. Not a weapon, not a threat. Just a chain wrapped around his fingers like it was the only thing tethering him to this earth. A charm, a memory, something or someone he didn't want to let go of. She thought of her own chain, the one tucked beneath her uniform, hidden against her chest. Her brother's dog tag, the last piece she had of him. Her silence pressed harder. "Sniper, report," the captain demanded. Her breath caught, then she exhaled. No movement, perimeter secure. The boy crawled into shadow, out of her scope, alive. She told herself it wasn't mercy, it was strategy. A dying boy wasn't a threat. Not now, not tonight, but she knew better. Somewhere deep inside she knew. The team moved deeper into the compound. Muffled gunfire echoed again. Then shouting. A crash of metal. She couldn't see them, but she felt the tension through her headset, through the fragments of breathless words exchanged over comms. They were breaching, clearing, pushing room by room. She wanted to be down there, not because of trust or distrust, but because of that door, the one with the prisoner, the one she couldn't stop staring at. Minutes stretched like hours. The desert grew colder, stars sharper. Her scope blurred sometimes, her eyes burning from strain. She blinked, refocused, adjusted. Still that door. Always that door. Finally, Lewis's voice broke through again. "We've got civilians. Shaken but alive. Women, a few men. No sign of heavy weapons." The captain added, "Search isn't over. 2 buildings left." Her pulse quickened. 2 buildings, 2 chances. "Sniper, how's it look out there?" She forced steadiness into her reply. Still clear. But inside, nothing was clear. Footsteps scuffed behind her, too close. She swung her rifle, breath spiking, and froze. It was Ruiz, one of the younger scouts, barely 21, face pale under the moonlight. He had climbed the ridge quietly, his own rifle slung low. "Captain wants you inside," Ruiz said, voice shaking slightly. "Said perimeter's stable enough." She stared at him. "Inside?" "Yeah, orders." She hesitated. Snipers didn't abandon their perch. Overwatch meant distance, detachment. But maybe the captain knew what she hadn't admitted, that tonight wasn't ordinary. That silence was cracking. She rose slowly, slinging her rifle, brushing dust from her uniform. The ridge felt harder to leave than it should have. It had been her shield, her excuse. Up here, she was just the eye, the silent witness. Down there, she'd have to face what she feared. They moved together, slipping through the perimeter breach, into the courtyard scarred by gunfire. Bodies lay scattered, weapons dropped mid-fight. A lantern flickered in the dirt, casting light that seemed too human, too fragile for this place. Inside the first building, the air was thick with smoke and sweat. Civilians huddled in corners, wide-eyed, silent. A woman clutched a child to her chest. rocking gently, whispering words that had no power but comfort. One man stared at the wall, unblinking, lips moving in prayer. Lewis was kneeling beside another man, checking vitals, murmuring reassurances in a language he barely knew. When he saw her, he gave a short nod, but his eyes lingered, searching. Maybe he sensed something she hadn't spoken. Maybe he always did. The captain appeared from the far hall, his expression tight, controlled. "2 more rooms," he said. "Sniper with me." It was unusual. He never called her that way inside, but she didn't question. She followed. They reached the door, the same one she'd watched from above. Her breath hitched before she could hide it. The captain's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he signaled. 2 soldiers flanked, ready. The door creaked open. Darkness inside, the smell of damp and blood. They moved in, rifles raised. And there, against the far wall, prisoners. 3 men, hands bound, blindfolded, clothes torn. Her chest tightened so sharply it almost dropped her. One of them lifted his head, just slightly, enough for her breath to shatter. It was him. Her brother. Older, thinner, broken in ways she couldn't yet see. But him. She almost said his name. The word swelled in her throat, pressing against her silence. But she swallowed it back, choking on the weight. The captain moved forward, checking restraints, giving orders. Soldiers cut bindings, offered water, guided the men up. She didn't move. She couldn't. Her rifle hung uselessly at her side. Her silence screamed in her ears. Her brother turned his face just enough toward her, blindfold still covering his eyes, but as if he felt her there, as if some tether still pulled between them. She wanted to rip the cloth away, to tell him it was her, that she had found him, that he wasn't alone anymore. But she didn't. Because this wasn't the place. Not with the captain, not with the team, not with a mission still unfinished. She stayed silent. As always. How long could she keep the secret? The prisoners shuffled out into the dim courtyard, weak and blinking under the sting of lantern light. Soldiers steadied them, offered water, checked for wounds. Relief rippled quietly through the team. They had found lives worth saving. For many, that was victory enough. For her, it was something else entirely. Her brother's presence was a blade pressed against her silence. Every second she wanted to break, to say his name, to let them all know. But the captain's voice kept pulling her back. Orders clipped and certain. Get them secured. We're moving in 10. 10 minutes. That was all. 10 minutes to decide if she would stay the soldier or become the sister. Lewis appeared at her side, his hands stained with blood from the wounded. He looked at her, long and searching. "Something off with you tonight," he murmured, keeping his voice low so the others wouldn't catch it. Her throat tightened. "Just focus on your job." "I am," he said. His eyes lingered another beat before he turned away, carrying water to one of the prisoners. She stayed near the shadows, her gaze locked on her brother. His blindfold was still in place, but she watched every move, every gesture. The way his shoulders sagged, the way his lips cracked as he whispered something she couldn't hear. He looked older, smaller, yet still him. Still the boy who once ran beside her through summer fields, who once swore he'd protect her from everything. And now here she was, rifle in hand, the one who had to protect him, without letting anyone know. The captain strode past her, barking quiet commands into his comms. His eyes caught hers for a moment, sharp, assessing. She forced her face into stillness. Soldiers like her weren't supposed to crack. Silence was strength. That's what she told herself. That's what she had to believe. "Convoys inbound," the captain announced. "We'll move the civilians and prisoners to the rally point, then exfil. Quick and clean." Quick and clean. Words she should have found comfort in. Instead, they coiled around her chest like wire, because quick and clean meant no time for questions. No time to pull her brother aside, to speak his name, to let him know she was here. She adjusted her grip on her rifle, fingers tightening. Every step of the mission pulled her further from the chance she needed. The team began to move, guiding the prisoners toward the breach. The night had grown colder, the desert sky wide and pitiless above them. Stars blinked sharp, a reminder of how small they all were. The silence between footsteps was filled only by the shuffle of worn boots, the clink of gear, the occasional cough. She fell back slightly, letting herself walk nearer to her brother. One soldier had an arm under his, supporting his weight. She wanted to brush his sleeve, to whisper, to tell him that he wasn't dreaming, that he wasn't forgotten. But the soldier between them, a stranger to the truth, kept that wall in place. Her brother stumbled, knees buckling. She flinched forward, instinct carrying her a step closer. But the soldier steadied him, muttering encouragement, unaware of the storm tearing through her chest. They reached the vehicles. Prisoners were loaded gently, civilians too. Engines thrummed low, vibrating through the ground. She climbed into the truck opposite her brother, watching as he sat hunched, head bowed. His blindfold had been removed now, eyes narrowed against the harsh interior light. And then, for the first time, his gaze lifted. It brushed across the faces around him, settling finally on hers. For a breathless moment she thought he saw, that he recognized, but his eyes slid past her unknowing. He didn't see her, or maybe he didn't let himself believe. Her silence burned hotter. The truck jolted forward, wheels crunching against gravel. The ride was rough, every bump rattling through her bones. She kept her eyes on her brother, heart pounding with words she still couldn't release. Louis sat beside her, too close, his shoulder brushing hers. "That one," he whispered, nodding toward her brother. "He's different from the others. You see it too, right?" Her pulse spiked. Different how? "He's not broken, not like the rest. There's something in the way he holds himself, like he's waiting for something." She forced her breath steady. "You read too much into people." Louis gave a half smile, tired but knowing. "Maybe, or maybe I'm just better at seeing what others miss." She turned away, staring out into the dark desert. But his words sank deep, because maybe her brother was waiting for her. The convoy rattled on for miles, the night stretching endless. At one point, gunfire cracked in the distance, faint but sharp. Every soldier stiffened, rifles raised, eyes scanning the horizon. But it passed, echoes fading into silence again. When they finally reached the rally point, dawn had begun to edge the horizon. Pale light bled into the sky, painting the desert in muted blues and grays. The prisoners were escorted to a makeshift tent, given blankets, food, water. The civilians huddled together, whispering prayers of relief. The captain gathered the squad, his voice rough with exhaustion. "We hold here until extraction. 2 hours. Rotate watch. Get food, check gear, stay alert." They broke into small groups, some settling against rocks, others cleaning weapons, a few lighting cigarettes with shaking hands. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving only the heavy ache of fatigue. She didn't sit, she couldn't. Her eyes kept drifting to the tent, to her brother. Every instinct screamed to go to him, but her silence chained her in place. Louis joined her again, pressing a ration pack into her hand. "Eat, you'll need it." She took it but didn't open it. "Aren't you ever tired of pretending?" she asked quietly. He frowned. "Pretending what?" "That we're made of stone, that we don't feel it." Louis studied her, eyes softer now. "I don't pretend, I just carry it different." She wanted to ask how he carried it without breaking, but her throat closed again. Silence, always silence. The sun rose higher, the desert slowly warming. She watched shadows short and light spilling across the sand. She thought about how light revealed everything, how it made it harder to hide. Then movement. At the edge of the rally point, dust kicked up, not wind, wheels. "Contacts," someone shouted. Engines roared closer. A second convoy, but not theirs, not friendly. The captain barked orders. "Positions, defend the line." Chaos erupted. Soldiers scrambled, rifles raised, sand exploding under the impact of incoming fire. The prisoners were rushed deeper into cover, guards pulling them down. She dropped to one knee, rifle braced, scope up. Through the glass she saw trucks cresting the ridge, men in the back with weapons blazing. Dust clouds swirled, engines screaming. And then horror, the first round slammed into the prisoner tent. Canvas ripped, poles splintered, bodies dropped. Her brother was in there. She fired without thought, precision cutting down the first gunner. Then another, but more poured in, relentless, shouting war cries that tore through the desert air. The captain yelled for backup fire. Lewis dragged a wounded soldier to cover. Ruiz's voice cracked over comms, panic laced through. And she was a machine of silence and fire. Every shot a plea, every pull of the trigger a desperate vow. Stay alive, stay alive, stay alive. But deep down, she knew, this wasn't just another firefight. This was the moment silence might cost her everything. Because when the dust cleared, she would either still have her brother or lose him all over again. How do you protect someone when you can't even say his name? The desert exploded in chaos. Dust and smoke tangled with the rising sun, turning the air into a shifting blur of gold and gray. Bullets ripped through canvas, tore across sand, pinged against metal. The rally point, once a fragile sanctuary, became a trap in seconds. She pressed her cheek to the stock of her rifle, scope cutting through the chaos. Men leaned from trucks, mouths open in shouts she couldn't hear over the thunder of gunfire. She picked them off one by one, her shots rhythm matched to her heartbeat. Breath, squeeze, silence. Breath, squeeze, silence. But every pause dragged her eyes back toward the tent, toward the prisoners, toward him. The fabric was shredded now, its shape collapsing under fire. She caught a glimpse, her brother's figure crouched low, another prisoner pulling him down. Dust streaked his face, his eyes wide, frantic. He was alive, for now. Push left flank, the captain roared, his voice cutting through comms, sharp as steel. Keep them off the prisoners. She shifted aim. Another gunner fell. Another, still they came. Trucks swerving, tires spitting sand, their engines screaming defiance. It was an ambush meant to break them, and if it broke her, no one would know why. Lewis's voice cracked through the channel. We've got wounded, need cover. She swung her rifle, cutting down two men pressing too close to Lewis's position. She saw him drag another soldier behind rocks, his face streaked with sweat and blood. He didn't even look her way, didn't need to. He trusted her scope like breath in his lungs. The captain barked again. Sniper, keep the perimeter clean, do not lose focus. His words sliced deeper than he knew. Don't lose focus. Don't lose yourself. Don't lose him. She fired again, but her hands shook now, the weight of dual battles pressing down. Soldier against enemy, sister against silence. A truck skidded to a halt too close. Men jumped down, rushing toward the prisoners. Her chest seized. She dropped one, then another, but one slipped through, charging straight into the shredded tent. Her blood went cold. She couldn't see. Dust clouded the view, bodies shifting, blocking her scope. She adjusted, desperate, but the shapes blurred. Shouts rose from inside. She thought she heard her brother's voice. Or maybe it was just memory again, cruel and twisting. Her breath fractured. She abandoned the ridge, boots pounding across the sand before she even realized she was moving. Sniper, hold your post. The captain's shout echoed after her, furious, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. She crashed into the chaos, rifle up, sand biting her eyes. The tent was a wreck, cloth torn, poles broken, prisoners scrambling. A soldier grappled with the intruder, knives flashing in close, brutal arcs. She raised her rifle, but the melee tangled them too tight. She couldn't fire. She lunged instead, slamming into the enemy, knocking the blade wide. They hit the ground hard, sand choking her lungs. Hands clawed at her rifle, teeth bared in a snarl. She kneed hard, twisted, pulled free, and fired point-blank. Silence returned. She rose, breath ragged, heart hammering, and then she saw him. Her brother. He was staring at her. Eyes wide, recognition dawning, no words, just a look. a look that cut deeper than any blade. She froze, her silence shattered inside, screaming to speak, to tell him everything. But soldiers rushed around them, pulling the prisoners back, shouting orders, dragging the wounded to safety. The captain stormed into view, his face dark with fury. "What the hell are you doing off perch?" She opened her mouth, closed it, silence again. The captain's glare burned, but there was no time. He shoved her rifle back toward her chest. "Get your head straight, sniper, or I'll pull you out myself." She swallowed hard, nodding once, though her chest ached with the lie. The enemy began to break. Trucks peeled away under suppressing fire, engines wailing into the distance. A few bodies still twitched in the sand, silence slowly claiming them. The ambush faded, leaving only echoes, smoke, and the taste of ash in the air. The team regrouped. Medics moved fast, bandaging, injecting, whispering reassurances through clenched jaws. The prisoners huddled, trembling, eyes darting at every sound. Her brother sat among them, silent, staring down at his hands. But she knew he had seen her. She had seen him. The bond was undeniable now, raw and electric, alive between them. Lewis dropped beside her, wiping blood from his cheek with the back of his hand. "You all right?" She nodded stiffly. He studied her face. "You ran into the tent. That's not you. You don't break position like that." She didn't answer. "Who was it?" he asked quietly. Her chest tightened. "What?" "You saw someone. I know that look." She turned away, eyes locking on the horizon. The desert stretched endless, silent, merciless. "Drop it, Lewis." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. But the look in his eyes said he wouldn't forget. The captain moved through the camp, issuing orders with clipped efficiency. "We hold position until extraction. Defensive perimeter tight. No mistakes." His gaze flicked to her again, sharp and heavy. He didn't trust her silence anymore. She felt it. She retreated to the edge of the camp, settling her rifle against a rock, scanning the desert again. But her eyes drifted back again and again to the prisoners. To him. Her brother leaned against the remnants of the tent, his face gaunt, his body weak but his eyes alive. Every time they met hers, he looked away, quick, sharp, as if afraid the truth would spill out between them. She wondered if he understood, if he knew why she couldn't speak, if he hated her for it. The hours dragged. Sun climbed high, blistering heat pressing down. Sweat-soaked uniforms, dust stuck to skin. Soldiers shifted restlessly, nerves taut. Every shadow felt like threat. Every silence felt too loud. She stayed on watch, her finger light on the trigger but her mind circling endlessly. She thought about when they were children, him sneaking her food when she skipped meals, him defending her from schoolyard taunts, him promising he'd never leave her behind. She thought about the letter she'd received months ago, the one that said he was captured, the one command dismissed as unreliable. And now he was here, real, breathing, within reach. But still untouchable. Engines hummed in the distance. Not enemy this time, extraction. Relief rippled through the team, muted but tangible. They began packing gear, steadying prisoners, preparing for departure. The wounded were lifted onto stretchers, civilians guided gently toward the trucks. She moved closer, keeping her steps careful, deliberate. Her brother stood slowly, one soldier bracing his arm. For a moment, she let herself imagine walking up, saying his name, watching recognition bloom fully. She let herself imagine the silence breaking. But the captain's voice sliced the thought apart. "Load them, quickly." Her jaw clenched, her silence held. She climbed into the truck last, rifle resting across her knees. Her brother sat only feet away, his eyes on the floor. The engine roared, the truck jolted forward, dust rising behind them. And she knew. This silence couldn't last forever. One way or another, it would break. Silence can be louder than gunfire. It can ride with you, pressed into the hum of an engine, echoing in the gaps between men's laughter, filling every glance you don't return. The truck rattled over cracked earth, dust curling through gaps in the canvas. Soldiers leaned back against the metal frame, exhaustion pulling at their shoulders. Some spoke in low murmurs, voices tight with relief. Others simply stared, letting the silence stretch. She sat rigid, rifle across her knees, eyes fixed on the slit of daylight ahead. Every bump in the road jolted her body but not her focus. Her brother sat only a few feet away, shackles still at his wrists, his head bowed. His hair was longer now, tangled, streaked with dust. His skin pale from confinement. Every breath reminded her he was real. Every glance reminded her she couldn't speak. Lewis sat across from her, studying her face when he thought she wasn't looking. She felt the weight of his suspicion like another chain. He knew something had shifted in her. He didn't know what. Yet. The captain rode at the front, silent, his jaw tight, eyes fixed on the horizon. He hadn't spoken to her since the ambush except in clipped, necessary orders. She knew what he was thinking, discipline broken, trust fractured. A sniper who left her perch was a danger. The silence thickened with every mile. Finally, Lewis leaned closer, his voice low enough to blend with the rumble of the truck. "You need to tell me what's going on." Her eyes didn't leave the horizon. "Nothing's going on." "Bullshit." His tone was calm, steady, but unrelenting. "You've never broken discipline, not once. Today you ran straight into the line of fire. That wasn't strategy, that was personal." Her grip tightened on the rifle. Lewis didn't stop. Was it one of the prisoners? Her silence was answer enough. His breath caught, the realization dawning in his eyes. Who is he? She turned, locking eyes with him, her voice sharp. "Drop it, Lewis." For the first time, he didn't back down. "I can't, not if it's going to get us all killed." The words stung sharper than any bullet. Not if. As if her silence was already a blade at their throats. She forced her gaze forward again, jaw clenched, heart hammering. She wanted to scream, to confess, to tell him everything. But the moment she did, it wouldn't just be her burden anymore. It would be theirs, and command would never forgive it. The truck lurched suddenly, brakes squealing. Soldiers jolted forward, grabbing for handholds. Shouts rose from outside. Engines idled. The convoy slowed to a halt. The captain's voice cut through. "Hold positions." Her hand instinctively went to her rifle, scanning the slit of daylight. The horizon shimmered with heat, but no shapes, no trucks, no enemy fire, just silence and sand. Then a figure, standing alone. A man unarmed, hands raised, clothes tattered. He stumbled forward, collapsing to his knees. The convoy stirred, rifles raised, suspicion sharp. The captain leapt down, boots crunching on sand, hand raised to hold fire. He advanced cautiously. The man shouted something in a hoarse voice, words lost in distance. He fell again, hands clawing at the earth. "Medic," the captain barked. Two soldiers rushed forward, lifting the man onto a stretcher. His lips moved, cracked and dry, whispering something. His eyes rolled back. The captain climbed back into the truck, face grim. "Keep moving, faster this time." Engines roared, the convoy surged forward again, dust plumbing high. But unease lingered, a shadow in every glance. She knew why. Ambushes rarely came once. The sun burned high, hours stretching into a haze of heat and silence. The prisoners sagged, half-conscious, their bodies swaying with each bump. Soldiers shifted uncomfortably, water rationed, nerves fraying. Her brother didn't look at her now. Maybe he was afraid of what he'd seen in her eyes. Maybe he was pretending he hadn't seen it at all. But Lewis kept watching, quiet, relentless. By the time the convoy reached the outpost, a scar of concrete and wire on the desert's skin, tension clung to every soldier. Gates groaned open, trucks rolling into shade. Engines died. Silence rushed in again, heavy and suffocating. The prisoners were unloaded first, led into holding. She watched her brother disappear through the doorway, shackles clinking softly. Each sound cut her deeper. Then the soldiers disembarked, stretching, groaning, exchanging weary looks. The captain gathered them quickly, his presence ironclad. "You held under pressure," he said, voice carrying through the courtyard. "But mistakes were made, discipline broke. That doesn't happen again, understood?" A murmur of assent. His eyes flicked to her, sharp, unforgiving. Her throat burned, she forced her chin down. "Understood." "Good," the captain said. "You get one night, then debrief, dismissed." The soldiers scattered, some to the barracks, some to food, some to silence. She lingered, cleaning her rifle mechanically, each click of metal masking the storm inside. Lewis sat beside her, quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. "Who is he to you?" She froze. He lowered his voice, firm but gentle. "I saw the way you looked at him, the way he looked at you. That wasn't stranger's fear, that was blood." Her hand stilled on the rifle. Her silence stretched too long. Lewis exhaled, sitting back, realization sinking in. "He's your brother." Her head snapped up, eyes wide, panic flashing. "Lewis." "Relax," he cut in, holding up a hand. "I'm not saying anything." Her chest heaved, relief tangling with terror. "But you need to tell me everything," he said quietly. "Because if the captain figures this out before I do, it won't just be you that burns. It'll be him too." Her eyes dropped, shame flooding. She whispered, barely audible, "I thought he was dead." Lewis didn't flinch, and now he is. Tears pricked hot at her eyes, but she blinked them back. "If they find out, they'll call me compromised. They'll call him a traitor." Lewis's voice softened. "And what do you call him?" Her silence answered for her. Night fell heavy, cloaking the outpost in shadows. Soldiers slept fitfully, exhaustion dragging them down. But she lay awake, rifle by her side, the silence pressing harder than ever. She couldn't stop replaying it. His eyes in the tent, the recognition, the bond unbroken. She couldn't stop hearing Lewis's words. "If the captain figures this out, it won't just be you." She sat up, restless, and slipped from the barracks. The night air bit cool, the sky awash in stars. She moved silently through the outpost, past guards who didn't question her presence, past the captain's quarters where lamplight still burned, past the medical tent where moans of the wounded rose like ghosts, until she reached the holding cells. Two guards stood at the door, rifles slung, expressions bored. She gave a curt nod, her voice steady. "Need a moment. Command review." They hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, the air was thick, damp, heavy with despair. Prisoners lined the walls, chained, silent. Some stirred weakly, some didn't move at all. And then she saw him. Her brother. He sat against the far wall, eyes closed, head resting back. His chest rose and fell shallow but steady. She stepped closer, heart hammering, each footfall louder than thunder in her ears. His eyes opened, met hers. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence stretched, alive, trembling, breaking at the edges. Then in a whisper, raw and cracked, he spoke her name. It was the first time she'd heard it in years. And her silence finally fractured. What happens when silence finally breaks? Does it bring relief, or does it open a wound too deep to close? Her brother's voice was faint, a whisper swallowed by the cell's stale air. Yet to her it thundered. Her name, spoken like it hadn't been forgotten, like he'd carried it with him through every year of captivity. Her throat tightened. She glanced back at the door where the guards shifted restlessly outside, oblivious. Her breath trembled, her voice barely formed. "You're alive." His cracked lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Barely." Her knees gave in and she crouched beside him, fingers tightening on the cold floor. Up close, the scars were worse. Thin lines along his jaw, burns across his forearm, skin pulled tight where it had healed unevenly. Every mark screamed of torment. Every mark screamed that she had failed him. "I thought," her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "I buried you in my head a long time ago." He blinked slowly, as though even the act of keeping his eyes open cost him. "And I buried you in mine, but here we are." Her chest ached. Tears stung her eyes, but she held them back. Soldiers didn't cry here, not in the open, not in front of enemies, not even family who had become both. He studied her, voice rasping. "You wear the uniform of the people who chained me." She flinched. His words weren't sharp, but they cut anyway. "It's not that simple." "It never is," he whispered, "but you chose this side." Her breath shuddered. "I chose survival. I chose purpose. I chose to make something out of the day you disappeared." His gaze softened, but the weight never lifted. "And now you found me. What will you do with me?" The silence that followed wasn't just between them. It was inside her, echoing, shaking her foundation. She didn't have an answer. The door clanged suddenly. She shot to her feet, heart hammering. The captain stepped inside, boots loud against the stone floor. His eyes swept the room, cold, unyielding. They landed on her. "What are you doing here?" Her spine snapped straight. "Assessment." His brow twitched just slightly. He stepped closer, his gaze flicking to her brother, then back to her. "These men are not your responsibility." "Yes, sir." Her voice held steady, but her pulse thundered. The captain studied her, eyes narrowing, searching for cracks. He lingered on her brother's face, scanning, calculating. For a terrifying moment she thought he'd see it, the resemblance, the truth written in bone structure and blood. But he turned away. "Return to barracks, you'll be debriefed at dawn." She nodded sharply, moving past him, each step controlled, precise, rehearsed. But inside her silence screamed. Outside, Lewis leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He didn't ask what she'd said. He didn't need to. His eyes told her he already knew enough. Later, lying awake in the barracks, she replayed it all. The whisper of her name, the captain's stare, the danger coiling tighter. Sleep never came. Only the gnawing thought, "This silence will kill me." Dawn broke cold. Soldiers gathered in the debriefing room, shoulders hunched, eyes heavy. The captain stood at the head of the table, presence sharp, words sharper. He dissected every move from the ambush, every shot fired, every hesitation. When he turned to her, the room seemed to still. "You abandoned your post," he said, voice like steel. "Explain." Her heart clenched, the silence stretched. She felt every eye on her, waiting. She drew a slow breath. Visibility was compromised. "I adjusted position to confirm target movements. It allowed me to neutralize two hostiles before they reached cover." It was close to truth, close enough to hold. The captain studied her, unreadable, and left the flank exposed. She held his gaze. For less than 30 seconds, risk contained. The silence dragged. Then he looked away, moving on, but the tension in the room never eased. After the briefing, Lewis caught up to her in the corridor. His voice was low, urgent. "You can't keep this up. The captain's not blind, he's circling." She shot him a sharp look. "Then what do you suggest? That I confess my brother is in that cell? That I've already compromised this mission beyond repair?" His jaw tightened. "I'm saying you need a plan before the silence makes the choice for you." Her breath caught, the silence making the choice. That was her fear exactly. That night she went back to the holding cells. This time she didn't speak at first. She just sat across from him, knees pulled up, staring. Her brother broke it. "They're watching you." She nodded. "I know." "Then why risk coming here?" Her throat ached. She leaned forward, voice trembling. "Because I can't lose you again." His eyes softened, but sorrow lingered there too. "You never had me, sister. Not really. Not since the day they dragged me away." Her breath hitched. "Then let me have this moment." Silence filled the space between them. Not empty, not cold, just heavy with everything they couldn't say. Finally he whispered, "I don't blame you." Her chest cracked open at the words she didn't deserve. Tears broke free, sliding down her cheeks before she could stop them. She turned her face away, ashamed. He reached weakly, chains rattling, his hand brushing hers. "But you have to decide. Soldier or sister, you can't be both." The words sliced her clean through. Outside, footsteps echoed closer. She pulled back quickly, standing tall, wiping her face. A guard appeared at the door, nodding stiffly. "Captain wants you." Her heart plummeted. She followed, boots heavy against the dirt, silence pressing like a blade. The captain waited in his quarters, maps spread across the desk, his posture controlled. He didn't look up when she entered. "You've been restless." Her pulse spiked. "Sir." He lifted his eyes, pinning her. "You walk the perimeter at night, visit places not assigned to you. Why?" Her mouth went dry, she forced the words. "Recon, observation, I can't sleep, sir." He studied her, too long, too sharp. Then he leaned back, voice low. "Soldiers who can't sleep usually carry more than orders, they carry secrets." Her breath froze. The silence between them stretched, razor thin. Finally, he dismissed her with a flick of his hand. "Get rest. Tomorrow we move again." She left the room, her chest tight, heart pounding. He knew. Maybe not the truth, not yet, but he knew enough. Back in her bunk, she lay awake once more. Her brother's words echoed. "Soldier or sister, choose." The silence wouldn't let her rest, wouldn't let her breathe. By dawn, she knew. The choice was coming faster than she wanted. How long can a secret survive inside silence? A day, a mission, or just until the wrong eyes see what you've been trying to hide. The convoy rolled out at first light, dust rising in pale plumes behind the trucks. Soldiers shifted wearily, their eyes dull, their movements mechanical. Routine dulled fear, but it never erased it. She sat with her rifle across her knees again, staring ahead. She hadn't looked at her brother since dawn. Couldn't. Every stolen glance risked unraveling what little cover she had left. The captain rode in the front, posture stiff, silence iron. He didn't need to speak. His watchfulness was louder than any command. She felt it even here, 2 trucks behind. Lewis sat beside her, jaw tight, eyes forward. He hadn't spoken since last night. Not about her brother, not about the captain. He didn't need to. His silence was its own question. The desert stretched endless. Wind whipped sand into ghost-like swirls, stinging skin, scouring metal. Hours blurred, broken only by the rattle of engines and the occasional hiss of static over radios. Then the convoy slowed. A hand signal passed down the line. Halt. Engines cut. The desert swallowed the sound, leaving only wind. The captain climbed out first, binoculars raised. Soldiers followed, fanning into loose perimeter. She slid from the truck, boots sinking slightly into sand, eyes scanning the horizon. There it was, a thin plume of smoke, rising faintly in the distance. "Wreckage," the captain said, lowering the binoculars. His voice carried sharp. "Stay sharp" could be bait. He signaled for a team to advance. She was among them. The sand burned beneath her boots as they closed in. The wreckage came into view, an overturned truck, its frame twisted, blackened. The smell hit first. Charred metal, scorched rubber, something far worse beneath. Bodies half buried in the sand. Uniforms scorched beyond recognition. Her stomach clenched. The silence pressed harder, filling her chest, her throat. She moved carefully, scanning, every sense stretched taut. Then a crack, faint, sharp, not fire, not wreckage, a rifle. "Incoming," someone shouted. Gunfire erupted. Bullets snapped past, spraying sand. Soldiers dove for cover, returning fire. Dust clouded, choking the air. She dropped to her knee, scope snapping up. Through the haze, shapes darted, 3, maybe 4 shooters moving fast, using the wreck as cover. She exhaled, slow, squeezed. One dropped. The silence inside her didn't break. It hardened. More gunfire. Lewis shouted something, his voice lost in the chaos. The captain barked orders, his tone like steel against steel. She kept firing, one by one, until the desert fell quiet again. The smoke curled higher. The silence after gunfire always felt too loud. The captain stalked forward, checking the bodies, scanning the horizon. His eyes burned with suspicion, sharper now, heavier. Why do they always know where we are? One soldier muttered, shaking, reloading with trembling hands. No one answered, but the question lingered. Back in the trucks, tension clung like sweat. No one spoke, but everyone thought the same thing: leaks, traitors, information bleeding from somewhere. The captain's gaze flicked toward the prisoners more than once, then to her. Her chest tightened. She stared straight ahead, refusing to meet his eyes, but the silence betrayed her, even when her lips didn't. Night fell by the time they reached temporary shelter, a half-ruined compound, walls crumbling, roof jagged. They made camp, set watches, ate rations that tasted like ash. She cleaned her rifle by firelight, hands steady, mind anything but. Every click of metal echoed. Every breath felt stolen. Lewis sat across from her, eyes reflecting the flames. At last he spoke, his voice low. "The captain's circling closer if he finds out." She cut him off, sharper than she meant. "He won't." Lewis held her gaze, steady, unflinching. "Then decide, soon, because the silence isn't protecting you anymore, it's betraying you." The words landed heavy, sinking into her chest. She didn't answer, couldn't. Later she slipped away, under the pretense of perimeter check. The compound's shadows swallowed her steps. The holding cell was in the far corner, an improvised cage of wire and concrete. Her brother sat inside, chains slack around his wrists, eyes fixed on the ground. He looked up as she approached, his face lit, faint but real. "You came back." Her chest ached. She crouched near the bars, voice hushed. "I shouldn't be here." "But you are." His voice was gentler now, though still rough, broken. "Why?" She swallowed. "Because I don't know what else to do." He studied her, something like pity in his eyes. "You're carrying silence like it's a shield, but silence doesn't protect forever. It just delays the wound." Her throat closed. He leaned forward slightly, chains clinking. "Sister, you have to decide who you are before they decide for you." She wanted to answer, to tell him everything, to spill the years of guilt, the weight of his absence, the desperation that had driven her into this uniform, but her lips stayed sealed. The silence pressed harder than ever. Footsteps. She jerked back, rising fast. The captain emerged from shadow, his face unreadable, his presence suffocating. His eyes moved from her to the prisoner, back again. "What are you doing here?" Her pulse spiked. She forced her voice steady, checking security. At this hour, his tone was soft but sharp. "Yes, sir." The silence between them was unbearable. She could hear her own heartbeat, feel the weight of her brother's stare. Finally the captain stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You've been restless, distracted, and now I find you here. Why?" Her mouth went dry. She forced the words. "Because I don't trust anyone else to guard them." The captain studied her long and hard. His eyes lingered on her face, then flicked back to her brother. For a terrifying second she thought he saw it, the resemblance, the bloodline written clear. But he said nothing, just turned, stepping back into the shadows. Her lungs burned. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. Her brother whispered through the bars, "He knows." She closed her eyes, the silence inside her louder than ever. Some truths wait like landmines, buried deep, hidden well. But the longer you march forward, the closer your boots come to the blast. Morning rose harsh and unkind, painting the compound in pale light. Dust drifted through broken windows. Soldiers moved like ghosts, their eyes rimmed red from sleeplessness. She hadn't closed her eyes all night. Not once. Her brother's words, the captain's stare, Lewis's warning, they circled endlessly, clashing against the silence she had wrapped around herself. By dawn, she wasn't sure if it was silence anymore, or just a cage. The order came swift: break camp, move again. The convoy would push through hostile ground, make for safer supply routes. Every soldier felt it, the danger curling closer. The ambush yesterday had rattled them. Even hardened veterans glanced at shadows twice. She loaded her rifle, checked her gear, and climbed into the truck. Lewis gave her a look, half concern, half question, but she turned away. She couldn't give him the answer he wanted. Not yet. Engines roared. The convoy rolled out. Hours passed in tense quiet, only the rattle of wheels and the hum of radios. The desert stretched, unforgiving, endless. Then it happened. The explosion ripped the lead truck apart, fire blooming skyward, sand and metal raining down. Ambush. Gunfire cracked instantly, echoing across the flat earth. Shadows rose from the dunes, fighters pouring fire into the convoy, bullets slicing through steel. Chaos consumed everything. She threw herself from the truck, hit the sand hard, rolled, rifle snapping up. She returned fire, each shot automatic, trained, survival woven into her muscles. The captain barked orders, his voice carrying through the storm. Soldiers scrambled, forming lines, firing back, but the enemy was everywhere, circling, pressing harder. Lewis was shouting, dragging a wounded man to cover, blood smearing his hands. Smoke, screams, sand. The world fractured into noise and fire. And then chains clinked. She whipped her head around. The prisoner's truck had been hit, its cage cracked open. Her brother stumbled free, blinking in the chaos, chains dangling. Her heart seized. He wasn't running, not toward the enemy, not toward escape. He looked at her, just her. In the chaos, the silence shattered. She ran. Bullets hissed past, sand sprayed, someone screamed. She didn't care. She reached him, grabbed his arm, pulled him low to the ground. "Move," she shouted, dragging him toward cover. He stumbled beside her, half chained, half free. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I can't keep quiet anymore." The words tore from her throat raw, a confession more dangerous than bullets. But the captain saw. Through smoke and fire, his eyes locked on hers, then on the man she dragged. Recognition flashed, sharp as a blade. "Soldier," he roared, voice cutting through battle. "What is he to you?" The silence couldn't hold, not anymore. Her voice cracked as she shouted back, "He's my brother." The words rang louder than the gunfire. Soldiers froze, eyes snapping toward her. Shock rippled like a wave. The captain's face hardened. "You've betrayed your unit." "No," she fired back, still pulling her brother behind cover. "I've carried this silence to protect us all, but it's killing me and it's killing him. He's not the enemy you think." The captain raised his weapon. His aim didn't waver. Lewis appeared, blood streaked across his cheek. Rifle raised, not at her brother, but at the fighters still pressing from the dunes. He shouted to the captain, desperate, raw. "She saved us 100 times, don't you see? This isn't betrayal, it's humanity." Gunfire surged again, snapping the moment back into chaos. The captain fired, not at her, but into the dunes, rallying the soldiers with renewed fury. His orders came cold, hard, but he didn't shoot her. Not yet. She dragged her brother into the wreckage of a half-burned truck, forcing him down. His chains clinked, blood ran from a cut on his brow, but his eyes held something new. Not despair, not anger, something like pride. "You broke your silence," he whispered. Tears stung her eyes, too late. "No," he said, shaking his head even as bullets screamed past. "Exactly when it mattered." The battle stretched savage, endless. Soldiers fell, others rose, the desert swallowing screams and smoke. She fought like fire itself, guarding her brother, guarding Lewis, fighting the storm until her body screamed with exhaustion. At last, silence. Not the silence of secrets, but the heavy silence after carnage. The enemy broke, retreating into the dunes, leaving smoke and blood in their wake. The convoy was shattered. Soldiers staggered, tending wounds, counting the lost. She sat slumped against the wreckage, her brother beside her, Lewis standing guard. Her chest heaved, every muscle trembling. The captain approached, rifle still in hand, face carved from stone. He stopped before her, gaze cutting through. "You should be court-martialed," he said flatly. She met his eyes, too tired for fear. Then do it, but I won't apologize for breaking silence, not when it meant saving him. The captain's jaw clenched. His silence stretched long, unbearable. Soldiers watched from a distance, waiting. Finally, he lowered his rifle. Your secret endangered this unit, but he glanced at the battlefield, at the bodies, at her brother, then back at her. It also saved lives today. I'll report the mission. The rest stays buried. Her breath caught. She didn't understand. Don't thank me, he said coldly. This silence is yours to carry, not mine. He turned away, barking orders, moving to tend the wounded. Her brother let out a weak, disbelieving laugh. You're free for now. She stared at the horizon where smoke curled into the sky. Free. No, not free, but no longer silent. Lewis crouched beside her, eyes steady. You finally spoke, you finally chose. She swallowed hard, voice breaking. And I don't know what comes next. Lewis managed a faint smile. Then we face it together. The desert wind howled, carrying away the echoes of gunfire. For the first time, the silence inside her wasn't a prison. It was a space. Empty, waiting, ready to be filled with whatever came next.